What up, dudes? We got a little bit of a lot day today. I figured I'd go ahead and record it because I probably won't have anything else to post for who knows how long. I am still patiently awaiting my stunt tank on the R7, but it is finally shipped with a trackable number this time. Well, it's the same number, but it's actually trackable this time, so I think it's actually shipped this time. This has been a miserable experience waiting on this tank, but it looks like the light is at the end of the tunnel. Anyway, who are these guys? Hello. I don't know, I kind of thought maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of a clutch up, or not a clutch up video, a little Grom Wheelie tutorial video, and also kind of show you some of the tricks I've learned on this thing. So I've started doing quite a bit, and I don't know, could go into depth on some of those, tell you how I learned them or something. I don't know. Oh, I missed it. Stoppie, don't get in front of me. Almost crashed, almost collided, dude. I'm gonna crash right into the fence. Psych. Anyway, so I'm gonna teach you guys how to do a wheelie on a Honda Grom. This tutorial is gonna kind of assume that you already know how to do a clutch up. If you don't know how, I explained it in a previous tutorial I had a while back. I'll do a small demonstration on it, but I won't go like super into depth on it. But if you guys want to see a very in-depth tutorial on stuff like this, let me know, and I will make as many tutorials as you guys want for as many different tricks that I can do as you would want to see if you want to learn them. But first, I'm going to tell you how to wheelie your Grom, like just basic wheelie. So the first thing I do when anybody asks me how to learn to wheelie, assuming you know how to clutch up, which is just having the clutch in, which on a Grom is really easy because you don't have to like really work on timing. You just kind of rev it and you let it go. So that's the first step. You're going to have to know how to clutch up. It's really easy. Just rev it and dump the clutch. So second step on a Grom, you don't have to pull it. Let's see, can I just not pull it? I didn't have to pull it in first gear, but you will have to pull it in second gear. So keep that in mind. But first, let's work on first gear. So what you need to work on if you have a Grom and you don't know foot brake yet, this tutorial kind of assumes that you don't know foot brake. Well, it's a wheelie tutorial, so you probably know foot brake. So you're going to pop it up, and what you need to focus on when you're first learning is when you give it throttle, leave your hand exactly the same. I talked about this in my old tutorial, but you're gonna go clutch up and my hand stays, and well, until I get to a certain point, my hand stays the same on the throttle. This applies to all bikes, but you especially need it on the Groms, because if you start chasing it on Groms, like, you don't have a lot of time to chase it out, and you can't really pop it up and let it go. What most people do when they start wheeling is they're gonna pop it up and let off because they're not used to the height and they feel like they're high. Maybe on a Grom it won't feel as high, but on big bikes it feels high. So you're gonna pop it up from a dead stop. Oh, I forgot to mention, keep your foot down and keep your foot over the brake, obviously. I think it helps a lot. I'm not even that tall, I'm like 5'11". I think it helps a lot to have a foot on the ground and pop it up and just kind of chase it with your foot dragging. You're kind of gonna be like all over the place wobbly if you have both feet up in first gear, and it's probably gonna be really hard to control. So I recommend keeping your foot down because it helps you be really stable. I mean, look at the difference in that. It's crazy. So it's really kind of hard to explain to you the point where you need to foot brake, but just pop it up and foot brake it like over and over again. You want to build that muscle memory. You just got to pop it up and foot brake it down. You'll probably foot brake it a lot sooner than that, but pop it up, foot brake down. And when you start getting higher, and you start really using the foot brake, do not stay on the throttle when you foot brake. You're gonna get brake fade if you're always staying on the throttle and foot braking through it. That's how you get brake fade. So when you're going high, like when you actually get to this point where you're going really high, you let off the throttle. This is how you do like no throttle handers and stuff like that. Like you see, when you're at this dipping point, you don't need throttle hand. And I'm actually, like, that was all engine brake too. I'm not even foot braking that. There's a lot of like height you can get before you even need foot brake, but it's best to start learning the foot brake and building it into your brain before you ever need it, because you don't want to loop. Everybody says looping is learning, but I've never looped in the learning process. I've only looped trying to do like more advanced stuff and like pulling the clutch on accident instead of the handbrake. So yeah, hopefully I'm not like skipping all around and missing like important steps along the way. I'm not really good at this kind of stuff, but yeah. So let's recap so I make sure I'm not forgetting anything. You're gonna pop it up, you're gonna foot brake it down. Also, it's probably gonna come down really hard in the beginning, but that's okay. I never blew these forks out somehow. Yours will probably be fine. So anyway, you get to a point where you're kind of learning foot brake on command. Now you need to force yourself to improve. I covered this in my last video too. The only way to get better is to just get out of your comfort zone. So you're gonna have to just pop it up and keep your throttle steady. It's really easy on the Groms. I mean, you can do a lot without like messing up and whiskey throttling. But keep your throttle really steady. And now, if you're like, this is the point where like you've kind of worked on foot brake. Now you want to start like riding them out a little bit. So you're going to kind of start doing this, and every time you're uncomfortable, you foot brake it. I'm not foot braking right now because the engine brake does enough. But this is roughly the point where you might want to use a little bit of foot brake. But every time you get uncomfortable, let off the throttle and foot brake. You don't stay on the throttle and do it. You let off the throttle and foot brake. You do both. Because sometimes engine brake will save you when, well, oops. Sometimes engine brake saves you, but sometimes you need foot brake too. So now, you're at the point where you're kind of riding out first gear a good bit. You're foot braking. You're like, okay, I want to start dipping a little bit, controlling my speed. A lot of people want to move straight to second gear. Quit trying to move to second gear. Learn how to control your bike and then go to second gear. It's going to be way better because second gear gets more advanced. You got to use body movement to bring it up, and sometimes it just flies back. And if you're not really good at foot braking, you're not confident, and you're not able to do it without thinking about it. You have to do it without thinking about it. It's going to be all muscle memory, and if you have to think about it, you're not going to have time. It's just going to fly back once you finally get it up, and you're going to loop. So you got to really have foot brake drilled into your brain before you move on to that. But what I tell my friends to do is you need to get to the point, like before you move up, you should get to the point where you can pop it up and tell yourself, all right, I want to chase it a little bit. So you're going to chase it a little bit. Now I want to go back and dip. Now you go back and dip. And you're going to start like, if you want to work on getting your dips longer, you have to go faster. You can't come into a dip like at balance point and want to see, like if you're trying to go back really, like if you're going for height but you're not going fast before you get there, you're just going to keep stalling the bike. And if you're not able to like pull in the clutch and stuff like that, you're just going to keep knocking yourself down. So you need to learn how to force yourself to chase it and then dip on command. Once you can dip on command, I'd say you're ready for second gear. At dipping on command, you definitely should learn, because if you want to control yourself in a street ride, like say somebody brakes right now, I need to be able to dip just like that. And I've been doing that for a long time, but that was like one of the goals when I was learning, is I want to be able to guarantee that I'm not going to run into the back of somebody in a street ride. And now I can do this stuff on like stock Gixxer 600s. Like, it all applies. I've seen people go from big bikes to Groms, like me, which I still have a big bike, but I'm just waiting on it, and from Groms to big bikes. And the transition period is not very long if you learn enough. If you don't actually get to the point where you're dipping and like because you need to not be scared of going back, and you need to be confident in your foot brake. If you're not, then you go try to hop on a dirt bike or an F07 or whatever, then you're gonna just keep chasing it because you're scared of the height. If you're scared of the height, you're not going to transition quickly to a big bike. But if you're like already able to scrape your Grom and like dip on command and all that stuff, you'll pick up a big bike, because all you have to do is just use what you've learned with throttle control to make it smooth. You know, start by getting comfortable, chase it out for a little bit, and then eventually you'll just slowly work your way up, and then you'll dip. And like you'll get faster, you'll get to the point faster where you can just bring it up and dip it instead of like chasing it out and dipping it or something, you know. But yeah, so recap first gear. This is about kind of where first gear is done. If you can bring it up and dip it and say, okay, I'm gonna chase it, and then dip it again, keep dipping it and start working on longer dips. I mean, dude, you can go to like 20 miles an hour in first and dip it real long. You could scrape first too if you want, but I don't really like it, and you kind of need grabby brakes, especially if you're like a little heavier like me. I'm like 180, my old Grom. If I scraped, I'd probably just crash, or I'd probably just come to a stop and have to step off, because the foot brake would not pull me back down as strong as this one would. Yeah, I think this one might be P34. I don't know, it's a Brembo. They're both, the handbrake and foot brake are both Brembos, if you could see that. But anyway, all right, now we're gonna move on to second gear. But first, let's work on our yanking technique in first gear. So you're gonna, this is where it's gonna get complicated, and you need to have your clutch up, down, and stuff like that, because timing is working its way in now. And also, if like you're on a Grom, if you get like 60% stiffer clutch springs and like a bigger sprocket and stuff like that, I think most people get like a 37 or 40 or something, or some people would just go one down in the front and that's it. I have stock gearing because I just can't be bothered, honestly, to change it, even though it's not really that expensive. But anyway, what you're gonna do, you're gonna go in first gear. You can also, like, instead of, like, if you're at the point where you can ride them out, you don't have to start from dead stop anymore. And you could also start working on keeping like your foot off the ground, but that might still be kind of hard in the beginning. That might be easier to learn in second gear. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna like start learning to yank it up, but you have to do it with the clutch up. So if I try to yank way after the clutch up, it's not gonna work. You gotta yank with the clutch up, come up and dip it, and you get up there in your foot brake. And just keep riding it out. I tell people, if you can ride all the way across the lot, one side to the other, then you're probably ready for first, or probably ready for second gear. If you can't get all the way to the other side of the lot, just keep practicing first gear, keep working on controlling your throttle and dipping on command and stuff like that. You'll get there. Don't rush the process, because it always shows when people rush and they think that what people find impressive in wheelies is how far they can ride it, but it's not. What's impressive is, can you really control it? I mean, I would think it's a lot more impressive if you can circle wheelie in a parking lot and that's the only thing you could do, versus if you can get it up on the street. Because if you go get a more powerful big bike, everybody can ride them out. The Groms, the skill is in being able to get it up when it's going faster, but Groms are also like a very good learning tool. So, you know, nobody's judging. Like, nobody cares if you can't ride it out. What they do care about, though, and what is kind of cringe on street rides, is when you're chasing them out and almost running into the back of people. That's what's cringe. That's what people don't like. What's up, Joel?
I'm getting the podium down.
Podium?
Podium?
Hell yeah. Show me. Oh. Noob! Noob!
I'm going like the froggers, and then roll my foot through the block. I'm going to do a podium, and then just kind of jump into the fucking, the 50-50. There we go.
Hell yeah. Show me. I'll get you on video. I will continue to tell you about... Actually, no. We'll take a break in case he wants this clip. my gosh. Joel learns everything so fast, dude. It's crazy. Actually crazy. Anyway, so let's move on to second gear. You're gonna want to master being able to yank up your first gear, clutch up. You're probably only gonna be able to do that like 10 miles an hour, because once you get higher in the RPMs on the Grom, you can't really yank it up. So now we're gonna get to second gear. Second gear you can do from like 10 miles an hour to like 20, but the faster you go, the harder it's gonna get. If I do it at like 15, it's pretty easy. If I do it at 20, it's getting hard. If I do it at like 25, I'm yanking like I'm gonna throw my back out. Woo. So how do you do it? Well, there's two ways. One of them is good to learn and be like, it's easier to learn. The other one is more efficient. The one I'm doing now is more efficient because I can yank it up way faster. But the easiest way to do it is to kind of stand up and then like do your clutch up. I think in the beginning when I was learning it, I was having to like double rev it to really get it revved up high. You're gonna have to like almost redline it when you're going faster, and you're gonna like bounce into the seat like this. But that one is really not as good. So if you can learn that one, nice. But the second one, if you could just start with it, you could probably skip all the wasted time, because you're probably going to end up doing it anyway. And on the way back, I will show you that one. Alright, so the second one, I'll have to show you a third-person POV for this one too, because probably won't be able to see what I'm doing as well from my POV. But you're basically gonna like send yourself all the way to the back of your seat at the like releasing point of your clutch up. So it's like this. So as soon as I hit like all the way back, I let go of the clutch. And you might think this would hurt your back, but it really doesn't. I mean, it might be kind of sore the next day after like your first day of doing this all day, but it's not that bad. I mean, I do this stuff like all day, and actually the worst part is the calluses on my left hand. I don't know why it's not on the right hand, but the left hand gets it the worst, and it just kind of hurts by the end of the day, so I just start doing other stuff. But yeah, you're just gonna go in second gear, go like, how fast can I do this? Like 25. It takes a lot more skill to do that at 25 though, especially on stock gearing. I probably wouldn't even be able to do it with stock clutch springs, but mine are 40% stiffer.
That's the forbidden twisted T inside there.
It'll buff.
Look like water, dude. Just had to do mine today. I had forbidden twisted T inside mine too, so.
Yeah, I just keep it there, so if I get thirsty, I can drink it.
Yeah, dude, that's a good quick little thirst quencher, you know.
Hell yeah.
Pop the cap off with a one-hander, dump it all over yourself, you're good to go.
Yeah, just come up here, just slurp it like a straw. It's already got, it's got the built-in straw. Just take that part off.
You need like the little crazy like swirly straw to put on there.
Oh yeah. What was did I cover the second gear? I pretty much covered the second gear. I'll have to show you guys a clip of kind of what it looks like, but that one is more advanced. So what you'll probably do in the beginning is just bouncing it like that. You just kind of stand up so you can really get the forks to bounce down, and as the forks are coming back up is when you do your yank and like release of the clutch up. Second gear involves like a lot more, you know, body. It gets way more complicated. It literally took me like 3 lot sessions to figure out second gear on my OG Grom. It might have been easier on something like this, but you know, I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to learning on your Grom. We kind of covered a little bit of clutch up, but not really. And we covered how to teach yourself foot brake, kind of when to use it. I mean, when your bike is no longer able to bring you back with engine brake, that's when you use it. So if you want to start pushing the limits of how far you can go back, you basically just go higher and higher You just go higher and higher, and you're letting off the throttle. Oh my gosh, that's loud. You let off the throttle, and if your bike keeps falling, then obviously that's where you need a foot brake. But if you want it to go farther back, then you just let it keep falling. Or you're getting on the foot brake, but you're like barely on it. You know, like when you foot brake, you don't just always give it full force tapping. Like if you really need to come down quickly, you get a, you know, you slam that shit. If you just want to dip back slowly, like right now, if I dip back, I'm, you know, barely touching it. Everybody says feathering it. You just feather it, like just a tiny little bit. So little that if you saw me from the side, you might not even know I was foot braking. But if you saw the tail light, you might know. So yeah. I don't know, but so that's the tutorial. But now if you want to see some more like advanced stuff, like if you get your second gear down real good, you want to start practicing some more stuff, you can start doing one-handers. So let's do that. So in a one-hander, you're probably going to want to lock your foot under your pegs. I have stock pegs, so obviously it can be done, but aftermarket pegs from like MK Stunts is definitely better. And hand drag, yeah, so you're probably going to want to lock your foot, but you don't have to. You're going to need a good seat that like really locks you in if you're not going to lock it. I'll show you right. Oh shit. So like right now I'm not going to lock it. Let's see how far back I can go. I'll stick my foot up so you know. Oh yeah. Basically balance point is the only place I would hold it at if I'm not going to lock it. But when you lock it, you just feel a lot more secure and you're more accident like proof. So if you just go ahead and lock it every time and you accidentally hit like a bump or you accidentally smack your throttle a little too hard and you start dipping and falling off, instead of falling off, you've got your foot locked on your pegs underneath it. When I do it, since I have stock ones, I can't do it on the edge because it'll come up. So I got to do it like very close in to the bike. That's how you do that. Now say you get really good with those, start dipping them. Now you want to hand drag. How do you hand drag? Well, you're gonna lock your pegs, you're gonna lock your handlebars, and you're gonna just drag your hand. You're just gonna go back to your hand touches the ground. Pretty simple. Hello.
See you in a while.
Yeah. I've been dead. I died, but I just came back because I felt like it. Oh, here comes Tyler dragging out a scrape the whole way to the fence. I'll get out of these guys' way. Alright, so I'm not really going that far into depth on this stuff, but I'm just giving you guys, it's kind of more of like a basic tutorial. There's not really that much information to know with like these tricks that are built off of a wheelie. It's just really seat time and figuring it out and figuring out how to get comfortable with it. But I can kind of tell you like the basics to it. If you didn't know you need to lock your foot, well now you know. Oh, what else can I do? Lately, you'll need a handbrake for this unless you want to be really sketchy, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. You can jump up to your seat. That has become one of my favorite things lately on the Grom. And you could also jump back down, but that one's a lot harder. I was going way too slow for that, but I can do it. Well, how do I do that? So I actually still hadn't figured out how to do it from the actual rear sets. I have to go to my passenger pegs to do it. But the way that I do that is I start with a clutch up, covering the foot brake. Once I'm up, I cover the handbrake, and at balance point, whew, it's getting hard to talk. At balance point, I cover the handbrake, and I move my feet to the pegs, and I jump up the passenger pegs. My helmet's getting foggy. Oh, and then you can jump back down, and I've transitioned back to foot brake. Golly, it's hard to breathe. It's like a sauna in here. Getting some air. Woo. Alright, But that's more advanced. You're gonna need to learn the handbrake before you ever do that. So assuming you know how to clutch up and wheelie, let's teach you the handbrake. So you can either do it on your seat or the back pegs. It's a lot easier on the back pegs than the seat, but the seat looks cooler. You just stand on your back pegs, clutch up, you're gonna cover your handbrake and use it the same way that the foot brake is. If you know the foot brake, you'll figure the handbrake out pretty well. The way I would, that's actually a bad way to teach you though. The way I actually learned handbrake was I did knee knockers. So I still covered the foot brake, but then I also covered the handbrake, but then I would use the handbrake in the knee knocker. But just in case, like, this is how I learned to trust my handbrake too, because like I did not trust my handbrake the first time I used one, and I didn't use one on a Grom. I was learning on the FZ07 I used to have. So now I'm in a knee knocker covering both brakes, which is kind of dangerous because if you grab both of them you're going to go down pretty hard, but it's okay. So I cover the foot brake, but I use the handbrake to learn. Oh shit. And yeah, that's kind of how you learn the handbrake. Then you can start like going on the seat or the back pegs and using it. It's getting busy over here. I'm trying to think of all the other things I can teach you. Oh, the other cool thing in a basic sit down is just like chopping the throttle. That's really easy on Groms. That's how I learned to do it, was the Grom, because it's way harder on big bikes to learn, which you wouldn't even think would be that hard to learn, but it kind of is. I don't know. I mean, it's not hard, but it's more complicated on a big bike because you give it too much throttle and it actually just jerks back. So yeah, I don't know, chopping throttle. Oh, you know what I liked to learn? And now if you're doing like really slow wheelies and you start like using the clutch when you're learning that first gear stuff, like it's honestly easier to learn doing them in a circle than going straight. And so like when I was learning foot brake, I was basically learning to circle wheelie also, like do clutch work at low speed. So something else you can learn is you get going in a wheelie. This video is gonna be long. Get going and you're gonna hit this point. Start by learning to like figure out where you need foot brake and where you don't. And there's this point like not there, I had to foot brake, like right here where I don't have to foot brake at all. And you're gonna go right to that point and pull in your clutch. Now you'll probably fall back a little bit and need your foot brake, but for a little bit, or if you get there like really smoothly, you can just chill there with your clutch in and not have to foot brake really, and just coast for a long time. And so yeah, that's a cool thing you can learn probably the first time. So what I would do though when you're doing this, when you pull up and you find the spot where you pull in the clutch, if you start coming down really fast on the Grom, it's not that big of a deal to let it out, but you got to let it out low, or like when you let the clutch back out and you're giving it gas to like smooth out of the coaster. Do it low, because if you do it like way up high and you're giving it gas or something, you might just shoot the bike backwards.
Good evening.
Huh?
Good evening.
What?
Good evening.
What? And then another thing, if you learn coasters, you can definitely do this. No throttle handers, it's just a one-hander, but you get to that same spot. Oh, I messed up. Alright, so you're gonna get it to that point where I told you about pulling in the clutch, and then you're just gonna let your throttle hand off. Also, hook your foot for this, which I probably didn't mention. Hook your foot for the coasters too. I don't know if I mentioned that. Basically, just every time you hop on anything, just hook your foot if you feel like it. But anytime you're like taking a hand off or something, hook your foot. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, no handers. No handers are also the same thing as the no throttle handers, but you just take both hands off. I don't know if I can really think of anything else to teach you guys. There's probably more stuff. Swerves are really kind of all like seat time. Can't really explain that much. You just, other than like twisting your hips and pushing the bars. The thing is, I'm not even that good at swerves. Like, you also need to be kind of behind balance point. Woo, I got that one up fast. I could also explain stoppies a little bit, but I don't know. You basically just go fast, hook yourself to the bike really well, and give it a lot of brake. Yeah, so like I squeeze my, you're probably gonna have to put ATV, or no, it's RTV adhesive or something like that. It's basically like silicone or something. If you have a 22 Grom, because these things will break in. They broke like the first day I had it. So I had to put that on it to fix it. But now they're sturdy. So what I do, squeeze, like, and you want to do the same thing every time so that you can be consistent, because for a long time, and what I don't recommend, now that I finally figured it out, I kept like pushing myself forward, and I don't recommend that because it makes me inconsistent. What I found out is a lot better now is just like squeezing your legs into position, lock yourself to the bike, go fast, and just really give it a lot of brake. Like, but kind of like preload it, like get the, you know, the space out or whatever, and then you kind of feel that point where your brakes are really going to start engaging, and then just, you know, work into it. That was bad. Ooh, I felt like I was gonna fall over at the end. Yeah, I don't know, the one I just showed you was kind of bad. I really gotta I'm still in the part where like I have to think when I'm doing stoppies. I can't be talking in them. Yeah, that one was bad. That was a lot of brake. You want to get to a point where you're really not on the brake, but it's best to work your way up to that one slow, because there's nothing saving you if you go too far forward. Also, for stoppies, like, I'm not really a big guy on pushing gear, but for stoppies, I would put as much on as you have. Because I've seen a guy who his bike flipped and titanium like stabbed him in the back and just gouged like a chunk of his back out. If he had a chest protector, might have not lost skin, but it might have stabbed through the chest protector, but at the very least he wouldn't have been like got so bad by it. But yeah, I don't know. Chest protector at the least I would say is like a very good piece of gear to have. I don't really worry about it in the lot that much, but I probably should. I like stoppies though. Stoppies have like recently become one of the most like fun things for me to learn. I don't know, it's just like it's unlike any of the other tricks really, and there's really nobody out here doing them. Every time I'm at the lot I steal Mason's bike. Can we all give Mason a big old thank you for letting me steal his bike all the time? I mean, I'll stop stealing it once I have my R7 back, but I don't know, he's very cool for letting me abuse it. They'd do me some of them big long drags like I was doing before, but with the GoPro on. This side of the lot is so bouncy, dude. Clutch in. The wind just blew my visor shut. That is so stable on his. It's cray-cray.